Nottingham Forest are fishing yet again in the Palmeiras pool, and this time it's for yet another Brazilian wonderkid. Welcome to your Forest transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest transfer news. In today's video, we are going to be talking about both a striker, a wonder kid from Palmeiras that Forest have, if you believe rumours, put in a bid for. And we're going to go to the other end of the scale and talk about a defender who may be past it, but Forest have been chasing for quite a while. If you like all the transfer news, please don't forget, while you're here, to quickly hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV. That's completely free to do. And don't forget, if you want to grab yourself this beautiful signed framed Forest shirt, just click on the link and go and get your tickets from our good friends at Football Prizes. Let's jump into the news and let's start with the Wonder Kid. Born on the 1st of January 2004, the 19-year-old Giovani Henrique has been linked. In fact, the actual rumours are further that Forest have put in a £14.1 million bid in for him. Now, do we know much about this player? Yes, we do. And of course, if these rumours are true, we'll bring on our Palmeiras expert, Mario. Big shout out to him, who can give us more details about him. But let me talk you through the player and get you guys understanding him, because I'm sure there's a lot of you who haven't heard about him. Now, the first thing we have to do is separate our love for Palmeiras players from this player, because we love Danilo, who's come in. There's a good part of the fan base who still loves Scarpina. Coops, please play him tomorrow, man. And we know they are a great team that are developing loads of players. The thing is, with this player, I don't understand it quite yet, because his predominant position is at right wing, which obviously is where Jono plays. He is very left-footed. He's very silky on the ball and a great dribbler, and has had a couple of goals and a few assists. Nothing major. In fact, he's played 34 games, I believe 2 goals and 4 assists for Palmeiras. He's come through the under-20s team at São Paulo and playing now in Palmeiras. Now, is he the kind of player we need? I mean, the Brazilian love in me says yes, but it really depends on what Cooper would use him for. Or is this more of a project player in terms of developing him as we go forward? I think for me, the interesting thing about this is it tells you potentially the model Forest are going for. We spoke about this on the Grumpy Old Red stream last night, but are Forest going to follow the Brighton model, which is very heavily linked with the way the Portuguese clubs do it, which is to buy from South America young, talented Brazilians or South Americans, develop them, buy them quite cheap, and then sell them on for double, triple, sometimes quadruple the price they bought it for? Or are Forest going to be looking for more established players, or are they going to be looking for a mix? It's quite interesting to see what the philosophy on recruitment is going to be. There's a lot of people who said we didn't have, a great recruitment window over the last 12 months or so. You'd have to argue back, well, we stayed up. So in theory, you would say recruitment was a success. But bringing it back onto Henrique, look, he reminds me a lot of Scarpa in terms of the style and play. He can get the ball. He's happy to run with it. His physique is quite similar to Scarpa's, quite lean, pacey, but he does look predominantly left-footed. Most of his play will always be to go down that right-hand wing, cut in, and either take a shot or cross it in. And it still boils back to Jono versus Giovani. So how would this work? Well, if we were to put in a 14 million bid and it was to be accepted, that already is higher than his valuation. His valuation is probably in and around the 10 million euros mark. So clearly Palmeiras don't want him to go. Do I believe the strengths in this rumour as well? My answer to that is probably not so much, because Forest have already put a bid in. Look, it does happen a lot. I know the transfer window isn't open, but there is discussions always ongoing between clubs, especially at this time of the year. And then if they get the fee agreed and everything, come when the window opens in June, then everything will flow through. But it's also going to be a bit of a problem when it comes to the whole foreign players and the allocation you are allowed. We are already quite topped up on Brazilians, but what's good to see is he is a young player, and we have been buying some players especially in the January window, who are way past their sell-by date. So for me, would I be interested in him? For 14 million, I don't think in this day and age that's a huge risk to take, and I think if he develops into the player that the Palmeiras fans potentially think he could be, then this valuation could skyrocket. Could he turn into a Danilo in terms of the progression, the ceiling and everything? Yes, he has got plenty of space to grow into, but he is exciting to watch. He is fast, he is pacey, he's a dribbler, something we haven't seen too much of this season outside of Morgan Gibbs-White in our team. But the adaptation from the Brazilian league into the English Premier League may be tough on him because of his physique. We all heard that Scarpa was saying the first thing he noticed about the Premier League was the physicality, how much more lenient the refs were with tackles, etc. So potentially you could see Giovani having those same problems. But for 14 million and for that love of Brazilians, for me, I'd be willing to take a risk. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, from youth to retirement, and Forest are linked yet again with Sace, the ex-Wolves defender, 33 years old, playing at Besiktas currently in Turkey. He had over 100 caps in the Premier League with Wolves and is coming at a cut price of in and around 4 million. But he's 33 years old. Look, do I rate him as a player? I think he is decent, but I feel that we already have that position covered with Felipe. So I don't understand, yet again, why would we be looking for someone at that age? Look, am I anti-30s? Yeah, I am a little bit, because I like the idea of a squad that's developing and growing, that has 3 or 4 years within it to nurture before it starts to hit its prime, etc. And in terms of Cooper's actual profile, when you look at what he's best at doing, it's at developing those younger, youthful talents rather than working with the older, maturer bunch. But not saying he can't do that, but that's really his mantra. So does this one make sense to me? Not so much. But I do know that Forest were in for him and heavily interested in the January window. So I don't know if this one has legs or not. Because if I remember correctly, there's also some beef between him and Felipe. So would they actually be willing to get on? Does he work? Look, for me, as I mentioned in the other video the other day, we already have too many centre backs. I do think we still need to bring some in, surprisingly enough, but we will need to clear out some first. And although it's fun and exciting to hear about players being linked to Nottingham Forest currently, for me, honestly, we need to start by getting rid of some of the deadwood or the excess players, or whatever phrase you want to call them. That needs to be a priority first. We can't just keep buying new sweets and letting the old ones rot away in the back of the cupboard. They have to go. As we mentioned yesterday, there is rumours that there is a year's extension triggered on Harry Arter's contract, the contract that never ends if Forest were to survive in the Premier League. So we may yet still see him at Forest next season. It's unbelievable. The guy is robbing a living from us at 30k a week. It's ridiculous. How true those are, I don't know yet, but that's the stories that are going around. But back to Sace. Look, is he going to be able to play at Premier League level? Yes, he is, because he's done it before. He's a good international player as well. But at 33, there's only so many Felipes that are still around that can do that. And I would actually pass on this one. I, as I've said many times before, feel that centre-backs from the Bundesliga are the place you want to go. You get a good deal. They never really overcharge you with the Bundesliga. Look how much we picked up Niakate for last season. It was around 12 mil. There are so many talented, young, strong, physical, quick centre-backs in that Bundesliga. And that's really where Forest should be shopping for when it comes to centre-backs. In terms of attacking play, I love the idea of going to Brazil. And as I mentioned earlier, the model of Brighton seems to be half being picked up by Forest, as they're looking for those attacking players, those young, youthful, Danilo-like players from that Brazilian league, which is what you've seen Brighton do. Oh, Brazil, South American league, should I say, not just secluding it to Brazil. But it seems that they're mixing that with some experience. So it may be a hybrid version of the Brighton model that has been looked at and adapted. And I kind of like that, but I do want to see the right players from the European leagues coming in and not just some retirement home as we seem to have created with Newcastle players currently. But let me know your thoughts on Saison. Would you take him at Nottingham Forest? And looking at goalkeepers, it is now confirmed that Keylor Navas will be finished with Nottingham Forest. He got picked up that injury late on in the game against Arsenal. Looks to me like time wasting, but cool, man, whatever. And he is back in Paris, in PSG. So will not be playing tomorrow at Crystal Palace, even though I said so on my preview. Yes, every now and again, even I get it wrong. Completely forgot about him going off injured. He was confirmed as injured, as apparently is Danilo and Felipe going into this Palace match. But thankfully, who cares? Because we have nothing riding on it. In terms of Navas, look, he's been a really good goalkeeper. Is he my choice of goalkeeper? No. He makes those sublime saves, but he doesn't parry the ball out of danger. He tends to parry it too much into danger, and as I kept saying, has very liquid gloves. But was he good, and was he what we needed at the time? Absolutely. There are stronger links confirming Forest are very interested in Dean Henderson, so I do fully expect that to happen. But if that happens at 30 million, that's a lot of the transfer budget blown on a keeper. And if we look at maybe bringing Lodi in as well for another 25 to 30, you're looking at between 50 and 60 million that are going to be spent on two players that we already had last season. And as Dino mentioned yesterday, this would actually be Forest technically standing still rather than a progression forward. But in a way, I see it as the base and the foundations being cemented and solidified, because we have been plagued for too many years with loan players that come in, come out, especially if you look at our promotion season with Jed, with Davis, etc. That was always going to be a problem for us. So I don't mind if these are signed. And I do expect Marinakis to put a bit of a war chest together. I think it'll be again between 100 and 150 million, as he understands and he knows that you have to invest in the club to make sure that, one, we are still Premier League come this time next year, but more importantly, and in his eyes, because what he really wants is a push into the top 7 or 8 positions. And that is not by any stretch of the imagination, not doable. So let's see what happens, but that's your Forest transfer news for today. Please don't forget, before you leave, if you haven't already, do hit that like button, subscribe to Forest Fan TV, and make sure you go grab your tickets for this beautifully signed, framed Forest shirt. And there's a 1 in 3 chance you could win, because 3 shirts are up for grabs. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.